Hey, welcome back, you two. Thanks for joining again. Today we're doing paint on the trailer, and we're going to start by prepping the metal, cleaning it up, 3 coats of 2K epoxy primer, and 3 coats of a bed liner. So, hope you enjoy. So just before we start, 35 years ago, I used to know quite a bit of metal coatings. But product has evolved, there's new technology, new ways of doing things, so I had to reach out to an expert for my project. So I reached out to Berry Down Paint, Matt Ikla, the owner. He guided me through the process of selecting proper products according to what I can do with my project. Obviously, being a DIY, there was no way for me that I could bring my trailer, for instance, to a big sandblasting shop and so on. So he took everything in consideration, listening properly to my needs, and guide me through the process. So again, Matt, thank you so much for all your assistance. Product came out perfect. I like it. Thank you so much. So first, I used a needle scaler to remove the crust of the rust on the axle. And then I use a wire brush to get into all the little pits of the metal and try to remove as much as I can. When the axle was attached to the frame, it was quite easy to do, but I couldn't reach out underneath, and so I decided to remove the axle, put it on a stand so I could rotate the axle as I'm wire brushing it. So I'll move a little bit. Moving the axle here to be able to put it on stands on a workbench that is actually higher, and this way it's going to be easier for me than bending in a bending position all the time for doing that, because the speed is times 4 right now, and just to do the axle, it took me about at least 30-35 minutes to do it properly. So it's not a fast process, but more you remove, less it comes back, right? So that's what I'm doing. Rotating, and my fan is working right now, and it's actually sucking all the dust that I'm doing. This is nasty dust, and I didn't want to breathe it, so I have my mask, my glasses protecting my eyes, and also gloves and ear muff, because the sound is very hard and actually high pitch, and it's not unpleasant. So that's what I'm doing right now, is grinding the remaining rust and trying to get into those pits. So my dad is actually doing a 40 grit flapping disc first on the frame. Then I'm going to come back with an 80 grit sandpaper, and after all that I'm going to wire brush everything. So it does create 2 different types of profile. I was supposed to sandblast the entire frame, but my little sandblaster was not working properly. It's a cheap stuff that coming from Princess Auto, and it was not meant to do that. I mean, it works, but it's so slow that the prepping would have taken me 2 or 3 weeks to do it all, flipping the trailer upside down and do the other side, and that would have not worked properly, because once you prep your metal, maximum time that you should allow before priming is 8 hour max. So if you can do it faster than that, better it is. So it wasn't working for me. So now we move up to the cleanup process. Again, this is high speed. We did 5 cleanups, change our rags often and so on, and until the rags has no visible dirt after a cleanup. So 5 good cleanup, properly done, and we let it dry properly. Then I blew it up with an air gun just to make sure there was no residue or any slow solvents on the film, and we were ready for primer then. The primer process is interesting because it's a 2K epoxy primer, and I could only do one side at the time. So from what I read from the product information sheet is that if you recoat epoxy primer with an epoxy primer or epoxy top coat, the duration or the time allowed between coating is greater than if you change technology. So I wanted to do an epoxy primer. This is the back, the bottom of the trailer where the wheel is attached. So I wanted to do the bottom completely finished, then flip it around and do the top portion. So I'm meticulous here to do the flat surface and the sides, because when I'm going to flip that the frame to the other side, I'm not going to redo the sides, just the top of those beams. So this is very, very, very slow. It's a great product. It flows like a charm. It hides, it builds. I like it a lot. The only thing is, I thought I had a 2.2 needle on my gun, and I had a 1.8 needle. So it's coming out, but it's coming out super, super slow. Because the first pass I did is no reduction. Just the catalyst and the epoxy. So as I'm spraying the first coat, when I'm done with the first coat, which took me about, oh my god, almost an hour to do the frame, slowly like that. What I did is on the second shot, I reduced it 10% to help on my gun. But then on the second pass, you'll see that now it's coming out fast and there's a lot of fume in my shop. So on the third coat, I decided to go just 5%, and this was perfect. So and that made a huge difference. I mean, it came out good still, non-reduced, but it takes a lot of time. So the second coat, you'll see I'm gonna have quite a bit more fume in the shop than I used to have, and this is actually 4 times speed as well. So you can see the difference between the first coat and the second coat, which is now coming out of the gun way, way, way faster. It's interesting how just 10% of reducer can do. It's a little bit too much. So on the third pass, like I said, I'm gonna go to 5% reducer. Now the floor is getting sticky, and as I walk on it, obviously I'm dressed in my work clothes and paint clothes and so on, so it's getting dirty with all these years of doing finishing or stuff in my garage or grinding metal. So it's not nice. They're not nice clothes, but they are handy and they work well, so it doesn't matter to me to get dirty in those. Fill up the gun, then do the axle. So I install my axle on an old tire and a rim. This way I can turn the axle I'm wearing all my sunglasses and everything because these little pieces of rubber, sometimes they bounce on the part and come back to you. So I didn't want to take any chances. So mask again. The odor is minimal, and the actual fume, well, there's pretty much none. I mean, there could be some if you spray, past or before the parts, but when it goes to the parts, there's no fume. It's easy to control. First coat of bend liner is done, so now we move on to the second. No reduction in this material, so it's going to take the exact same amount of time as we have to process over the entire surface. So this is the actual speed. Couple of passes in the same spot, and move a little bit, couple passes on the same spot, and so on. So it's not fast, but it's efficient. Third coat, same process again. But now I can move a little bit further from the surface to have a more dispersed texture, all even.